You know them in yellow and green, but Brazil used to play in pure white until one catastrophic afternoon changed everything. In 1950, a shocking heartbreak forced them to completely outlaw their own jerseys, calling them bad luck, and redesign their entire national identity from scratch. Here's how a single football match changed a nation's colors forever. Because this really isn't just a story about sports fashion. We're talking about arguably the greatest psychological pivot in history. Imagine a trauma so profound, so deeply felt by an entire population, that a country literally felt they had to shed their skin to escape it. When we think of global pop culture, there are a few iconic visuals that cross every single language barrier, and that iconic yellow jersey is absolutely one of them. But its origin story? It was born from an unparalleled, almost unimaginable heartbreak. And before we jump straight into the deep dive of exactly how this unbelievable shift unfolded, make sure you hit subscribe to this channel. We love uncovering the hidden history and the deep psychology behind the things we see every day. And if you want more clear, structured visual explainers just like this one, you'll definitely want to stick around. All right, so let's set this stage by going back to the original identity of the team. If you grew up watching modern football, or really just existing in the modern world, picturing the Brazilian national team in anything other than vibrant yellow feels totally alien, right? It just feels wrong. But originally, the Brazilian national team proudly wore pure white jerseys with blue collars. White was often chosen in early sports because it represented purity, tradition, and a clean slate. This was their identity. When they walked onto the pitch to present themselves to the globe, they were a sea of white. And nobody, not a single player or fan, had any idea that these very colors, their proud national colors on the pitch, would soon be viewed as a literal curse. Now, to understand the curse, you really have to understand the sheer hubris going into 1950. Brazil wasn't just playing in the 1950 tournament, they were hosting it. The entire country was a stage purpose-built for a Brazilian triumph. And the math couldn't have been more favorable. Going into that final game against their neighbors Uruguay, Brazil only needed a draw to win the whole thing. They didn't even have to win the match. The table was completely set. The arrogance was palpable. Local newspapers had literally pre-printed headlines declaring Brazil the champions before the opening whistle even blew. But then, match day arrives, and Uruguay pulls off an unthinkable 2-1 upset. The rug wasn't just pulled out, the entire floor collapsed underneath a nation's collective ego. To truly grasp the weight of that collapse, we have to talk about the physical scale of this event. 173,850. That is the official ticketed crowd packed into the Maracanã Stadium in Rio. That is basically the entire population of a mid-sized city crammed into a single concrete bowl. And they weren't there to watch a competitive sporting event. They were there for a coronation. Imagine the collective anticipation, the raw noise, the absolute certainty of victory, held by nearly 174,000 human beings standing shoulder to shoulder. But the crazy thing is, the reality was even more staggering than that. Unofficial estimates pushed well past 200,000 people inside that stadium on that day. It's hard to even conceptualize the physics of fitting over 200,000 people into that space. This cemented the match as the largest official crowd in soccer history. You have this unprecedented scale of humanity gathered in one place, all projecting their hopes onto the team in those white and blue kits. And when Uruguay scored that final goal to make it 2-1, the silence from those 200,000-plus fans was described as deafening. Think about what it sounds like when 200,000 people collectively stop breathing at the exact same time. It has famously been called the loudest silence in sports history. It's the ultimate whiplash. You have a stadium packed to the absolute brim for a guaranteed coronation, immediately followed by this shocking 2-1 upset. The pendulum swung from the highest possible peak of ecstasy down to the lowest depths of despair in a matter of minutes. And that's exactly why this event became infamously known as the Maracanazo, meaning the blow at the Maracanã. Because it's crucial to understand, this wasn't just a lost game. Sports have this unique power to elevate a nation's spirit, but they can also completely shatter it in the exact same afternoon. This was viewed as an absolute national catastrophe. The aftermath is where the story shifts from a simple sports recap into profound psychological trauma. The entire country plunged into literal mourning. We were talking about an eerie, devastating quiet falling over the streets of Rio de Janeiro. There are actual anecdotes of people refusing to leave their homes for days. The sheer magnitude of the heartbreak, experienced simultaneously by the millions listening on the radio and the hundreds of thousands in the stadium, created a shared trauma that really mirrored a natural disaster. People wept openly in the streets. The defeat was so loud, so universally felt, that it left a permanent scar on the psyche of the nation. They couldn't just brush this off and say, we'll get him next year. So it makes you wonder, could a piece of fabric really be cursed? It's a great question, and it speaks right to the heart of human psychology. When a nation or even an individual experiences a trauma this deep, our brains naturally search for a scapegoat. You desperately need something tangible to blame. You need a physical object to purge so that you can move forward and trick yourself into believing this horrific pain won't happen again. And in this case, the target of their collective blame became the very fabric the players wore on their backs. Which leads us to what is genuinely one of the most unbelievable facts in all of sports history. Brazil was so traumatized by this loss that they permanently banned their original white and blue home kits. They viewed them as literally cursed. It's just sheer disbelief. We aren't talking about tweaking the collar design or changing the fabric supplier. They permanently outlawed the core visual identity of their country's team. The white and blue were deemed inherently unlucky, tainted forever by the ghosts of the Maracanazo. So they were banished, completely erased from the rotation forever. So you leave the white kit behind in the ashes of 1950. But you need a new identity, right? A rebirth, something fresh and totally untainted. And the solution was brilliant. They looked to the ultimate enduring symbol of national pride, the Brazilian flag. They designed a completely new kit featuring the vibrant yellow and green pulled directly from the flag itself. And just like that, they birthed the most recognizable visual brand in global sports history. This wasn't the result of some corporate marketing meeting trying to sell merchandise. It was birthed from a desperate psychological need for a reset. The yellow represented a fresh start. It was a way to wash away the trauma, which leaves us with a really fascinating debate to consider as we wrap up this explainer. Did the new colors actually free them? It's the ultimate question of sports psychology. Can a color carry a curse? Or did changing the jersey simply free a nation's mindset? By shedding the white and embracing the yellow and green, Brazil wasn't just changing clothes. They were changing their narrative. They allowed themselves to let go of the past. They gave themselves permission to step into a new era of greatness, totally unburdened by the heartbreak of 1950. It's a powerful testament to how intertwined human identity, psychology, and symbols truly are. Did the yellow jersey create the magic, or did it just unlock the greatness?